Hi, I'm teacher Jennifer, and today we are going to talk about syntax. So let's first identify the meaning of syntax. So when we say syntax, it is the accurate or the correct formation of sentences. So it is a set of rules that governs the arrangement of how words and phrases to form a correct sentence in a language. So when we say syntax, no, it is the correct formation of our sentences. It is the arrangement and how accurate our sentence are. So why do we need to study syntax? So of course, first to ensure the clarity and the meaning and communication, because um, when we ignore the rules of grammar, we are likely to be confusing, or we will give confusion to other people. And next is to helps it helps to avoid ambiguity and confusion. So like what I've said earlier, it is important to study syntax because it assists or it guides us, so we will be able to form a, an accurate sentences. It is also important because some people is not fluent in English, and they are basing in the patterns of your sentence. So in so therefore, it is important that we know what is the correct formation of the sentences we use. So next we have it is to maintain consistency in sentence structure. And lastly, it supports effective writing and speech. So when you are fully knowledgeable in syntax, you are able to speak confidently, write, and also write. You will be able to form correct sentences confidently, either verbally or written. So now that we know the meaning of syntax, let us move on to the types of syntax. So we have five kinds. I have prepared five kinds. So first one is the simple syntax. Second one is the compound syntax, complex syntax, compound complex syntax, and lastly, the parallel syntax. When we say simple syntax, it is the sentences that has only one independent clause. It only has, since it's simple sentence, it only has the verb and the subject. So it follows. So when we say simple syntax, it has a complete thought, subject and verb, and it follows sentence structure such as SVO. Do you know SVO? So SVO is the subject, verb, and object. So for example, she eats an apple. She is the subject, eats is a verb, and an apple is our object. So as you can see, it follows SVO pattern structure of a sentence, and it is common. We use it when we say simple syntax. We use it in our everyday speech and basic sentence construction in our daily lives. So another example we have here: the sun shines brightly. So when we say the sun, it is our subject, right? Bright shines is our verb, and brightly is our adjective. So it because it describes how the sun shines. And another one, she teaches English. So it's another SVO. She is the subject, teaches is the verb, and English is our object. So after simple syntax, we have compound syntax. So when we say compound syntax, it is a structure of sentence that has two or more independent clauses. Um, let's say, for example, I wanted to go out, but it started raining. So I wanted to go out is already a complete thought, and it started raining is also a complete thought. So when we are going to combine it, we are going to add what? Coordinating conjunction, which are the fun boys. So for and nor, but, or, yet, so. So in the sentence I wanted to go out but it started raining, we added but. I wanted to go out, complete thought, but it started raining. So that is how you form a compound syntax or sentence. So let's go back to the meaning of compound syntax. So since it is a sentence that is joined by two or more independent clauses, it helps relate or connect ideas with equal importance. So, like what I've said earlier, we can use here our conjunctions such as coordinating conjunction or the fanboys. So our third structure or types of syntax is the complex syntax. So when we say complex syntax, it has one independent clause and at least one dependent clause. So unlike the first one, the simple syntax is only one independent clause, or it has one complete thought, and the compound syntax, which has two complete thought and is combined by a coordinating conjunction. So in complex syntax, it has one independent one independent clause and another dependent clause. So when we say dependent clause, it is a sentence that doesn't have a complete thought. When we say dependent clause, it is a type of sentence that cannot stand alone in a sentence, or it is a thought that cannot stand alone in a sentence. Dependent clauses begin with subordinating conjunctions. So what are the subordinating conjunction? Because, although, since, when, if, while, after, before, unless, though, whereas, and etc. Let's have an example. Our first one is she stayed home because she was feeling sick. So when we say she stayed home, that is our independent clause because she stayed home is already a complete thought. And when we say because she was feeling sick, who's feeling sick? So it's confusing, and it it's not a complete thought. It is not a full sentence. That is why in our example, it only shows how complex syntax is a combination of an independent and dependent clause. So let's have another example. Although he studied hard, he failed the test. So although he studied hard is our dependent clause because it started with a conjunction. Although he studied hard, it's not a complete thought, right? But he failed the test is a complete thought. That is why it is the independent clause, and the first one is the dependent clause. So last example is when the movie ended, they left theater. So again, like the second one, our first few words here is the dependent clause because when the movie ended is not a complete thought, and they left the theater is a complete thought. It is a form structure. It is a simple syntax. They left the theater, right? It is a simple syntax. But when we say when the movie ended, it is not formed accurately because it lacks some information. So next, let's move on to the compound complex syntax. This is the second to the last type of syntax. So when we say compound complex syntax, it has at least two independent clause and one dependent clause. So it creates sophisticated sentence structure for more advanced writing. So it combines elements of both compound and complex sentences. So for example, although she was tired, she completed the project and she submitted it on time. So here, since it is a combination again, like the complex syntax, it is a combination of dependent and independent clauses. Let's identify the clauses used here. So first, although she was tired, it is a dependent clause because it started with a subordinating conjunction, which means it is not a complete thought. She completed the project is an independent clause, and she submitted it on time is a complete thought. So again, when we say compound complex syntax, it has two independent clause and one dependent clause. So in our first sentence example, we have two independent clause and one dependent clause. So that is all for the syntax. I hope you learned something. And again, this is teacher Jennifer, and see you next time.